The stars outside the ship looked peaceful. The big human warship, Valiant, moved slowly across the edge of the galaxy. It was far from Earth, far from home. Inside the ship, everything was calm. The lights were soft, the air was quiet, and the crew did their jobs with care. They had done this many times. Nothing strange had ever happened out here. Captain Rhea Morgan stood on the bridge. She was strong, but calm. Her face showed no fear, only focus. She had led many space trips before. She trusted her crew, and they trusted her. Around her, screens showed maps, ship systems, and stars. "Status report," she said softly. "All systems normal," replied Ensign K, a young officer. "No ships in range. All clear." Rhea nodded. She walked slowly to the main window and looked out at the stars. They were beautiful and endless. She had loved space since she was a child. It was quiet, peaceful, but something inside her felt strange this time, like something was about to change. Deep inside the ship, engineers checked the engines. Pilots studied the route. Everything looked fine. But then, something happened. A small red light blinked on one of the screens. "Captain," said Ensign K, "I'm picking up a signal. It's not human." Rhea turned around. "What kind of signal?" "It's strange. It's moving fast. And getting closer." The room grew quiet. The soft hum of the ship's engines was the only sound. The crew looked at each other. No one spoke, but everyone felt it. Something was wrong. "Show it on screen," Rhea said. The main screen blinked, then showed a small dot. The dot was moving. Fast. Too fast for a normal ship. It came closer and closer. Then more dots appeared. 1, 2, 5, then 20. "That's a fleet," said K, his voice low. "And they're heading straight for us." Rhea stayed calm. "Are they sending a message?" "Yes, Captain. But it's not in our language." Trying to translate. The computer worked quickly. Letters and numbers flashed on the screen. Then, a simple message appeared. "You are not welcome. Leave now, or be removed." The crew read the words in silence. No one smiled. No one moved. Rhea's voice was calm but firm. "Open a channel. Let's talk." They tried, but no answer came. The signal was cut off. The unknown ships kept coming. Lieutenant Juno, the ship's navigator, spoke next. "Captain, they're forming a pattern. It looks like they're surrounding us." Rhea narrowed her eyes. "How close?" 30 seconds. The room changed. The lights shifted to alert mode. The air felt thicker. Every crew member moved quickly, but without panic. This was not a drill. They had trained for many things, but this was something new. Rhea walked back to her chair. She didn't sit down. She stood, hands behind her back, eyes on the screen. She looked calm, but her mind was moving fast. "We don't know who they are," said Kay. "No," Rhea replied. "But they know us. They found us. They came fast. And they sent a warning." "Should we leave?" asked Juno. Rhea didn't answer right away. She looked at the stars again. So quiet, so peaceful. But now, a storm was coming. She felt it. "We don't run," she said quietly. "We're here on a peaceful mission. But if they want to test us, we'll show them what we stand for." The alien ships came closer. They were big, strange, and new. Shapes no one had seen before. Lights blinked on their sides. Still, no more messages, just silence. The kind of silence before something big. Rhea turned to her crew. "Get ready. Shields up. Stay calm. Follow orders." The crew moved into position. Everyone knew what to do. Fear was in their hearts, but so was trust. Trust in their captain. Trust in their ship. Trust in each other. On the screen, the alien ship stopped. They did not move. They just waited. "Captain," said Kay, "they're holding position. What now?" Mira stared at the screen. Her voice was steady. "Now," she said, "we wait and watch. They made the first move. Let's see what they do next." In the silence, a new message came through. It was just 3 words. "This is your end." The crew looked at Mira. She didn't blink. "Prepare for what's next," she said. "Let's show them who we are." The crew of the Valiant stayed silent. Every person on the bridge looked at the main screen. The message from the unknown fleet still floated there. "This is your end." The words were simple, but the meaning was heavy. No one had ever spoken to them like that in space before. Captain Rhea Morgan stood tall at the center of the room. Her eyes didn't move from the screen. She wasn't scared. She was thinking. Deeply. Quickly. Around her, the crew waited for her voice. They trusted her, and she trusted them. "Let's not guess," she said softly. "Let's observe." The ships outside were still not moving. There were many of them, more than anyone on the Valiant had seen at one time. They were shaped like long silver spears, with lights running down the sides in strange colors. No human had ever seen this kind of design before. The ships didn't show any flags, didn't send any names, and didn't answer hails. They just waited. Then, slowly, one of the alien ships started to move. It slid across the stars like a shadow. Not fast, not loud, just silent and sure. The Valiant's sensors followed it carefully. "They're testing our response," Mira said. "Should we power up defense systems?" asked Lieutenant Juno. Quietly, Mira replied. "Let them think we're watching, not worried." Below the main deck, in the core of the ship, the crew began silent checks. Power levels were raised just a little. Not enough to show up on the enemy scanners, but enough to be ready. The engineers spoke in short whispers, hands moving fast but smooth. They didn't know what would happen next, but they were ready to stand by their ship and their captain. Back on the bridge, another alien ship began to move. Then 2 more. Now the whole fleet was shifting, slowly building a circle around the Valiant. It was a move that needed no words. It meant, "You're not going anywhere." "They're not here to talk," Ensign K said. "They're here for something else." "But what?" Mira asked out loud, more to herself than anyone else. In the communication room, Officer Lena was studying the signals. She spoke gently through the bridge intercom. "Captain, the messages from the enemy ships are short, and they're repeated in cycles. But they are not from one source. It's many voices, not one." "What does that mean?" asked Mira. "I think," Lena said, "these ships are not from one empire. They're from different places. They came together for this." A soft silence fell over the bridge again. That changed everything. This was not one unknown race making contact. This was a group effort, a gathering. For some purpose they didn't understand. "Why would different alien ships work together?" Juno asked. "They see us as the same," Mira said. "They don't care about who we are. They only care that we are human." Then something unexpected happened. A single file was sent to the Valiant. No words, no voice, just a short video. The crew played it on a side screen. It showed planets, many of them, empty, quiet. Then it showed alien ships flying over cities. Not human cities, alien ones. And then those cities disappearing. Not from weapons, but from silence, from fear, from something unseen. The last part of the video showed a human ship, one much older than the Valiant, leaving one of those planets. And then the video ended. "They blame us," Mira said. "They think we caused that." "But we didn't," Kay said quickly. "No," Mira replied. "But someone did. Someone who looks like us." A new message flashed on the screen. This time, the words were longer. "You brought change to our worlds. Now we bring change to yours." The crew now understood. This fleet wasn't here just by chance. It was a response. It was a decision. "We are not here to hurt anyone," Mira said quietly to herself. But we are also not here to run. The Valiant was still alone in space, but now it felt like it was standing at the center of many eyes, watching, judging, waiting to act. Mira took a deep breath and looked at her crew. Each of them was watching her. No one asked what to do. They were waiting for her voice. "We are explorers," she said. "We are messengers of peace. But if someone closes the door on peace, we do not hide. We stay true to who we are." Her words were calm, but they filled the room with strength. "Keep the ship ready," she said. "Let them make the next move. And when they do, we'll show them what it means to stand as one." The stars outside didn't blink, but deep in space, everything had already begun to change. The crew of the Valiant didn't know what was coming, but they knew one thing clearly. They would face it together. The alien fleet remained silent, their ships hovering in the emptiness of space, like a storm waiting to break. The Valiant stood in the center, its crew calm but alert. Mira stood still, her hands resting lightly on the armrests of her command chair. Her mind was racing, but her face was the picture of calm. This was not the first time she had faced the unknown, but this felt different. There was something about this fleet, something she couldn't yet place, that made her uneasy. "Captain," Kay's voice broke through the quiet. "The fleet. They're shifting positions again. It's like they're preparing something. They're organizing." Mira looked up at the main screen, her sharp eyes following every movement of the enemy ships. There was no immediate attack, but their formation was becoming tighter. They were surrounding the Valiant, almost as if they were ensuring the ship couldn't escape. "Is there any communication?" she asked. "Still nothing," Lena replied, tapping away at the controls. "The signals are strange. It's almost like they're sending something, but it's not a language we understand. It's almost a frequency, a tone." Mira's brow furrowed. A tone. She had heard of species using sound to communicate, but this felt different, more complex, and if the aliens were trying to speak to them in a way the humans couldn't decode, it meant one thing. They were deliberately keeping them in the dark. It wasn't just a message, it was a warning. "Can we send anything back?" Mira asked. "I can try," Lena said, her fingers flying over the controls. "But I don't know if it will reach them." Mira gave a slight nod. "Try." As Lena worked, Mira turned her attention back to the stars outside. The stillness was eerie, the space between the ships feeling more oppressive with every passing moment. She felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. The Valiant wasn't just a warship. It was humanity's first line of defense, its first ambassador in this part of the galaxy. If the aliens were making this move because of something humanity had done, it was now their duty to figure out what it was. "Captain," Ensign Kay's voice interrupted her thoughts. "The fleet has begun a new formation. It's almost like they're focusing on us. There's something different about this." Mira turned her gaze back to the screen. The alien ships were aligning, their shapes shifting in a way that made the Valiant feel even more isolated. They weren't just waiting for something. They were preparing for something. But what? And why? "I think we should consider the possibility they might not want to fight," Mira said, turning toward the crew. "They might be testing us, seeing if we'll respond with force, or if we'll offer peace." "Maybe," Kay said cautiously, "but how can we offer peace when we don't even know what they want?" Mira thought about that. She didn't have an answer. They didn't know anything about this fleet, not their intentions or their history. But one thing was certain. They weren't here by accident, and humans couldn't afford to make a wrong move. "Captain," Lena spoke up, "I think I found something. A pattern in the signal." Mira immediately walked over to Lena's station. "What is it?" "It's subtle," Lena said, her fingers still tapping rapidly. "But I believe they're sending a repeating signal, if we play it backward." Lena adjusted the controls, and the signal was played again, but this time, reversed. The tone shifted, almost imperceptibly at first, But then, the ship's systems began to translate. "Now I'm seeing a set of images," Lena said. "It's strange. Almost like a history, a record of something." Mira leaned forward, focusing on the screen. The images were blurry at first, stars, planets, and shapes that she couldn't recognize. Then it sharpened. The picture became clearer. The images were of large cities on different planets. Each city was beautiful, but there was an emptiness about them. The sky was dark, and the streets were quiet. The people, if they had ever existed, were gone. Then the picture changed again. It showed alien ships, not like the ones surrounding the Valiant, but older, battered. They were floating over the empty cities, scanning them. Some of the ships landed, but no one ever emerged. The image flickered, and another city appeared. This time, the buildings were burning, their structures breaking apart under the weight of something unseen. "Captain," Lena said, her voice hesitant, "I think this is a message about loss. Maybe these ships are showing us their past." Mira's heart skipped a beat. The message was not just a warning. It was a history of destruction. A race wiped out. A civilization lost. "What are they trying to tell us?" Juno asked quietly. Mira took a deep breath. She knew this was important. The aliens weren't just threatening the Valiant. They were sharing something. But why? "Maybe they're asking for help," Mira said slowly. "Maybe they want to prevent what happened to them from happening to us." Kay looked at her, his eyes wide. "They want us to stop them from repeating history." Mira didn't know. But if that was the case, it would change everything. As the images on the screen shifted again, Mira stared at the alien fleet. They hadn't fired weapons, hadn't made any move to attack. Instead, they had shared their history, their pain, and their fear. And yet, the question remained, why? What were they waiting for? What did they want from humanity? Mira glanced back at the crew. "We need to be ready. They might not trust us yet, but if we can understand their message, we can choose our path. And right now, it's our only option." The silence on the bridge deepened. The stars outside seemed to grow darker. And Mira knew that soon a decision would have to be made. But for now, they could only wait. Wait for the next step, the next move from the alien fleet. And whatever it was, the crew of the Valiant would be ready. The tension on the bridge of the Valiant was thick enough to feel. Everyone knew something was coming, something big. The alien fleet had not moved in hours, but the sense of impending action was unavoidable. Mira stared at the vast emptiness of space on the main screen, her mind calculating every possible scenario. If the aliens wanted a fight, they would have already attacked. If they were waiting for peace, they hadn't made it clear how they expected that peace to happen. "Captain, the fleet is holding position," Kay reported, eyes glued to the scanner. "They haven't moved. No more signals. No communication." Mira exhaled slowly. "They're waiting for us to make the next move." A quiet murmur passed through the crew. It was a heavy weight, knowing the next decision could determine everything. If the Valiant made the wrong move, there could be consequences. And yet, if they waited too long, the aliens might take it as a sign of weakness. "Do we try sending a message again?" Juno asked, breaking the silence. "I don't think just words will help us now," Mira said. "We need to show them who we are. We need to show them our strength, but also our willingness to communicate." Lena, the communications officer, nodded, her fingers moving over the controls. "If they've been sending us these patterns, maybe we can send something back. Not just words, but something they'll understand." Mira turned to look at the younger officer. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Lena said slowly, "we've been trying to speak their language, trying to decode their signals. But what if we send something in a different form? Maybe we show them who we are through actions, through something universal." Mira raised an eyebrow. "Something like what?" Lena looked at her, eyes wide with excitement. "Music, art, something that doesn't rely on spoken words but conveys emotion. We can't tell them who we are with just language, but maybe we can show them our humanity, show them our creativity. Mira considered this for a moment. The idea was bold, but it might work. The aliens were clearly intelligent. They were sharing something with them, a history, a memory. Perhaps they could share something in return. A song, a painting, a symbol of peace that didn't rely on the kind of communication they had been trying. "Do it," Mira said, her voice firm. "Let's show them who we are." Lena immediately began setting up the transmission. The Valiant wasn't equipped with music systems for communication, but they had a few creative minds on board. The officers quickly scrambled together, setting up a sequence, a message built not in words, but in sound. It was a melody, something designed to express emotions that could cross the boundaries of spoken language. As the music began to play through the communication system, Mira's heart raced. She watched the alien fleet on the screen, the ships suspended like silent sentinels. The melody, soft and steady, began to fill the bridge, a simple tune with a rising crescendo that spoke of hope and resilience. It wasn't just a song, it was a message. The crew listened, unsure of what the aliens would do. The silence between the Valiant and the fleet stretched on, heavy and uncertain. Would they understand? Would they reject this peaceful gesture? Minutes passed, but it felt like hours. The melody continued to play, each note carrying a little more hope than the last. As the final note hung in the air, Mira's heart skipped a beat. The silence that followed felt almost oppressive. And then, without warning, something happened. A ripple of light pulsed across the alien fleet. It wasn't an attack. No weapons fired. No shields flared. It was more like a signal, a response. Lena, who had been monitoring the scanners, gasped. "Captain, they're moving. The fleet, it's shifting." The ships in the fleet began to reposition, but not aggressively. They were aligning in a new formation, one that was less threatening. It was almost as though they were reacting to the music. The pattern of their movements was still strange, but there was no hostility in the way they moved. For the first time, it seemed like they were listening. Mira stood up from her chair, her eyes narrowing as she studied the new formation. "Are they responding to the music?" she asked. Lena didn't answer right away. She was watching her monitors, her hands trembling slightly. "It looks like it. The signal is changing, Captain. It's not a signal anymore. It's something else. I think they're showing us something." The screen flickered, and suddenly, new images appeared. This time, it wasn't a history of destruction. It was a message, a vision of what appeared to be the alien homeworld. Green landscapes, cities in harmony, people or beings interacting peacefully. It was a beautiful sight, but there was something sorrowful about it. Like it had been lost. The images were clear, but the faces of the beings were still obscured, almost like a distant memory. Then, a new image appeared. It was of a star that was slowly dimming. The alien world was close to it, orbiting the star as it began to lose its light. The planets surrounding it flickered in the dark. The alien ships moved once again, this time in a slow, synchronized pattern. They were no longer circling the Valiant like predators. They were moving together, as though they were waiting for something. A response, a sign. Mira realized something. They had shown them their past, their pain, the loss of their world. And now they were waiting for humanity's response. Not just words or music. They were waiting to see if humanity would understand the weight of their message. The crew on the Valiant felt a new understanding settle in. They were not the first to face loss. They were not alone in their struggles. And for the first time, it seemed like the alien fleet was not just a threat. It was an invitation. The bridge fell silent again. But this time, the weight of the silence was different. It wasn't oppressive. It wasn't threatening. It was a quiet space of mutual understanding. A space that could either lead to further conflict or to peace. Mira stepped forward. "We need to speak, not with weapons, but with our hearts. It's time for us to show them we understand their pain. We need to be the ones to break this silence." The music had played its part. Now it was time for humanity to show the alien fleet that they, too, had the power to understand, to empathize. Mira stood motionless as the alien fleet's ships continued their slow, deliberate movements. The stillness in the air was almost palpable, the weight of their silent interaction hanging over the Valiant like an invisible thread. The crew waited, tense, each person hoping that their peaceful gesture would be enough. But no one spoke. Words seemed unnecessary now. The music, the images, they had been sent, and now they waited for a reply. A faint hum suddenly filled the command deck. It wasn't the usual noise of the ship's systems or the soft background chatter of the crew. It was a strange, deep vibration that seemed to resonate through the floor beneath their feet. It was subtle at first, but as the hum grew stronger, the crew exchanged uneasy glances. Was this another signal from the aliens? Or was it the ship's systems reacting to something they didn't yet understand? "Lena." Mira's voice broke through the quiet. Lena, who had been monitoring the communication system, quickly looked up. I think it's them. They're sending something." The hum seemed to pulse with rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. It wasn't a voice, but there was an unmistakable pattern to it. A series of fluctuating waves, some low and some high, each one different, but with a distinct flow. It was like music, but alien in nature, its tone unfamiliar, yet somehow familiar at the same time. The sound reverberated within the ship, and for a moment, Mira felt as if she could understand the pulse of it. It was like a language in itself, a rhythm that spoke without words. The crew was on edge, staring at the screen, waiting for any change in the alien fleet. And then, as if in response to the hum, the images on the display shifted again. This time, there were no cities, no destruction. The screen was filled with stars, brilliant, vibrant stars. The stars seemed to pulse, shining brightly, but there was something more to them. They weren't just stars. They were part of something bigger, something interconnected. A new image appeared, a massive, glowing structure, floating in the vastness of space. It was like nothing anyone on the Valiant had ever seen before, a giant ring, intricately designed, with glowing segments that seemed to shift and move with the rhythm of the hum. Mira's eyes widened. The structure seemed alive, almost as if it were breathing, expanding and contracting with the pulse of the music. "They're showing us something," Kay said, his voice hushed. "What is that? Is that their home?" Mira studied the structure intently. It didn't look like a traditional home or city, but rather something far more ancient and complex, something that seemed to hold the very essence of the alien species. A place of importance, a place where everything began. "Maybe that's their key to survival," Mira muttered, more to herself than anyone else. "A source of energy, a way to live. Maybe it's not just their home. Maybe it's what kept them going for so long." Lena's fingers moved swiftly over the controls, trying to get a better look at the structure. "I'm not sure what it is, but it's definitely important to them. It's like a symbol of something they lost." Mira turned back toward the crew. They had seen loss, destruction, and fear in the images before. But this was different. This was hope, but a kind of hope laced with sorrow. The alien species was showing them something precious, something vital to their survival. A piece of their history, perhaps. But why? Why show humanity this now? "They're trying to tell us something," Juno said. "This isn't just about the past. It's about the future. They've lost something, but they haven't given up. They want us to understand that." Mira nodded slowly, her mind racing. This wasn't a threat. This wasn't an invasion. It was a plea. The alien fleet wasn't here to conquer. They were here to connect, to share their story. They wanted humanity to understand what had happened to them, what they had lost. They wanted to know if humanity could learn from their mistakes and avoid the same fate. As Mira's thoughts swirled, the screen shifted again. The glowing structure began to fade, but now it was replaced by another image, a small planet. The planet wasn't anything extraordinary at first glance. It was quiet, serene, with no major cities or bustling spaceports. It looked like any other world. But as the image zoomed in, a faint crack appeared on the surface, a scar that ran deep, breaking the planet into fragments. Mira's breath caught in her throat. The planet wasn't just damage. It was dying. Slowly, steadily, the fractures in its surface spread wider, the planet's core shuddering with each pulse of the hum. This was what the aliens feared. Their world had been destroyed by forces beyond their control. A war, a tragedy. And now they were showing humanity the results of that destruction. They want us to see this, Mira whispered. They want us to understand the consequences. The image flickered, and the cracks on the planet's surface disappeared, replaced by another image. The same structure from before, now glowing brighter, more intensely. It was as if the structure was pulling the fragments of the planet back together, trying to heal what had been broken. But the light was flickering, growing dimmer, as if even the alien technology that powered it was starting to fail. They need our help, Kay said softly. That structure, whatever it is, it's fading. It can't do it alone. Mira stood in front of the screen, her heart heavy with the weight of what was unfolding. The aliens had reached out, not with weapons or aggression, but with a plea for help. They had shown humanity their greatest loss, their greatest fear, and now they were asking if humans could help them rebuild what had been destroyed. Captain, Lena said, her voice shaking, they're sending something else. Another pattern. Mira looked up, her eyes scanning the screen. The familiar hum had returned, and this time it was more urgent. The aliens were showing them more images, more pieces of their history. It was a final message, a question that humanity would have to answer. Would they respond? Would they help the alien fleet? Or would they walk away, leaving the same destructive forces to continue their endless cycle? Mira took a deep breath. We need to make a decision, and we need to make it now. The crew turned toward her, their faces full of uncertainty, but there was something else there too. Hope. Humanity had been given an opportunity, a chance to make a difference in a galaxy far beyond their understanding. The alien fleet wasn't just asking for help, they were offering humanity a chance to shape the future. This wasn't just a moment of survival. It was a moment of choice. The future was in their hands. The decision weighed heavily on Mira as she stared at the screen, the final image from the alien fleet still glowing in front of her. The hum continued, vibrating through the Valiant, as if it, too, was waiting for something, waiting for an answer. The alien fleet had shown them their greatest sorrow, their deepest fear. Now they were waiting for humanity's response. Would they help, or would they turn away, unwilling to offer a hand to these distant beings? Mira's mind raced. She had never faced a choice like this before. There were protocols, strategies, missions, but nothing like this. This wasn't a war. It wasn't a diplomatic negotiation. This was something far more personal, far more human. The aliens had opened themselves up in a way that no one could have predicted. They were offering peace, but it was fragile. They were asking for help, but they were also showing humanity a future, one that was intertwined with their own. Captain, Kay said quietly, pulling her from her thoughts. What do we do? We can't just walk away from this. Mira nodded, her fingers brushing the edge of the control panel. She didn't need to look at the rest of the crew to know that they were all waiting, unsure, hoping for guidance. They were all in this together. Humanity's future wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about making a choice that would define them for generations to come. I don't think we can walk away, Mira said, her voice firm. Not after what they've shown us. The hum from the alien fleet had become more pronounced, more urgent. The aliens were waiting for them to make the next move, but there was more now. Something that wasn't just a plea for help. There was a sense of something deeper, something ancient, a connection that couldn't be explained by words alone. It was as if the music they had sent, the images, had started to weave together a bond between the two species, a bond that was now drawing them closer than ever before. Mira looked at the glowing structure on the screen once again. It wasn't just an object. It was a lifeline. It was the heart of the alien species, and now it was flickering out of existence. Slowly, gradually, the once vibrant light was dimming, as if it were losing its connection to the energy that had powered it for so long. The planet's broken surface had begun to fade as well, but now, instead of offering a glimpse of destruction, it revealed something else, something that felt like a beginning, not an end. "Can we help them?" Lena asked, her voice filled with uncertainty. She had been the one to bring the idea of sending a peaceful message through music, and now it seemed like that simple gesture had brought them to this crossroads. Mira met her gaze, searching her face for the answer she needed. "I don't know, but we have to try." She turned to Juno, the ship's navigator, who was still watching the alien fleet intently. "Prepare a course to the fleet's central ship. We're going in close. We need to see that structure up close. We need to understand what it is, and if it's something we can help fix." Juno nodded without hesitation. "Aye, Captain. I'll adjust our trajectory." The Valiant began to move, its engines humming steadily as it slowly made its way toward the heart of the alien fleet. The crew felt the ship's movements, each of them bracing for what was to come. They were not sure what they were walking into, but the path ahead was clear. They couldn't turn back now. As the ship moved forward, the images on the main screen shifted again. The structure, glowing faintly now, filled the display. It was closer than ever, and Mira could see it in detail for the first time. The segments that made up the ring were not just geometric patterns. They were intricately designed, with strange markings that seemed to pulse and shift with the hum. It was beautiful, alien, and yet strangely familiar, like it had been built to withstand time itself. The energy coming from it. Lena's voice trailed off. "It's still there, but it's weakening." "I can feel it too," Mira said. There was something about it, something powerful yet delicate. "We have to do something." "But what?" "We have to connect with it," Lena said, her voice rising with a mix of excitement and fear. "We need to reach out to it, understand what's causing the instability. I think it's trying to communicate with us." Mira looked at her, considering the possibility. Could the alien structure be like their own communication system? Could it be trying to speak through the energy it was sending out? Was it too, waiting for something? "We're close enough now," Mira said, moving to the control panel. "Initiate full scan. We need to understand the energy signature, get every possible reading on it." Lena quickly input the commands, and the ship's scanners began to buzz with activity. A map of the structure appeared on the screen, but it wasn't like any map they had ever seen before. The patterns were not like the planets or stars they had studied. They were flowing, changing, constantly shifting, like a living thing. "Captain," Juno's voice came through the comms, "we're getting too close to their fleet. We need to slow down, or we risk making them think we're an immediate threat." Mira frowned, her hand resting on the arm of her chair. "If we stop now, we lose the connection. We need to get close enough to see if this structure can be activated. We have no idea if it's something we can repair, but we can't afford to ignore it. The alien fleet is already dying. We might be the only chance they have." "Understood, Captain." Juno's voice was steady, but Mira could hear the tension in it. They were stepping into the unknown, and there was no guarantee of what they would find on the other side. The ship continued to approach the alien fleet's central ship, the glowing structure growing larger with each passing moment. Mira's heart raced, but her resolve was clear. This was humanity's moment. This was their chance to not only understand the alien species, but to help them, to show them that humanity was more than just a survivor in this vast galaxy. They had the ability to make a difference. As the Valiant closed the distance, a new image appeared on the screen. This time, it was of the alien fleet's ships. They were no longer stationary. They were gathering, moving as one toward the center, toward the glowing structure. The hum that had filled the Valiant was now louder, more distinct. It was as if the ships were aligning themselves with the very heartbeat of the structure. The crew watched in awe, unsure of what was coming next, but knowing that the moment to act had arrived. They were on the brink of something new, something that could change the course of history, not just for them, but for the galaxy. Mira stood on the bridge of the Valiant, her gaze fixed on the screen, which now displayed the full scope of the alien fleet and the glowing structure at its heart. The hum from the alien ships had become almost melodic, filling the ship with an eerie, tranquil rhythm. It was no longer just a sound. It was a presence, a communication, something they couldn't quite understand, but it was undeniably there. The alien fleet had shifted into formation, their ships aligning in a perfect circle around the structure. It was as if they were preparing for something that required all of them to come together. The center of the formation pulsed with energy, the light from the structure growing brighter with each passing moment. Mira felt the pull of it, as if it were reaching out to her, to the Valiant. Whatever was happening here, it was larger than any of them could have imagined. "Captain," Juno's voice cut through her thoughts. "The alien ships are stabilizing. The energy coming from the structure, it's changing." Mira nodded, her eyes narrowing as she watched the ships. They were no longer drifting aimlessly. They were synchronized. It was as if they had found purpose again, like the beacon from the structure had reawakened something within them. The fleet was alive with purpose, but what that purpose was remained unclear. Lena leaned over her station, adjusting the scan settings. "It's not just energy. There's information embedded in the frequency. It's like a data transmission, but it's not something we can easily decode." Mira turned to her, feeling the weight of the situation settle on her shoulders. "We need to try. Whatever this is, it's more than a message. The aliens aren't just asking for help. They're showing us their history. They're offering us a chance to understand them in a way no one has ever done before." Lena hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I'll start processing the data. We have to be careful, though. This could be more than just a signal. If we misinterpret it, we won't." Mira replied firmly. "We can't afford to." As Lena worked, the ship's sensors suddenly flared to life, a series of flashing indicators warning of a shift in the energy readings. The structure's glow had intensified, pulsing rapidly as the fleet moved in even closer. The light from the structure now seemed to be drawing the ships toward it like moths to a flame, their movements synchronized, in perfect unison. It was a sight that Mira had never seen before in her entire career. "They're connecting," Kay murmured from his station. "Whatever that thing is, it's bringing them together. It's like they're becoming part of it." Mira's heart raced as she watched the glowing structure pulse once more. This time, however, there was a change. The energy seemed to wrap around the ships, enveloping them in a protective, swirling cocoon of light. It was as if the very essence of the alien fleet had merged with the energy of the structure, forming something entirely new. Then the hum began to shift again. This time, it wasn't just a rhythm. It was more like a song, an ancient, deep melody that seemed to resonate with something within Mira herself. It was strange, but familiar, like a memory she couldn't quite place, a song that echoed through the corridors of time. "Do you hear that?" Lena's voice was low, almost reverent. It's speaking to us." Mira nodded slowly, feeling the weight of the moment settle around her. "It's more than just communication. They're sharing their story, telling us everything they've been through. They're showing us what they lost and what they're trying to rebuild." The images on the screen shifted once more. The glowing structure began to split apart, but not in a destructive way. It was like it was unraveling to reveal something hidden deep within. As the segments of the structure shifted, a new form emerged, a holographic representation of the alien species itself. It was not a physical form, but an image of energy and light, like an ancient ethereal being. It was beautiful in its fragility, as if it were a memory of what had once been. Mira's breath caught in her throat as the hologram began to speak. The words were not in any language she understood, but the tone, oh, the tone, was unmistakable. It was a voice filled with longing, a voice filled with history, with pain, with hope. The alien species was speaking through the very energy of their being, sharing their story, their culture, their essence. "We're not just looking at a signal," Mira said, her voice steady despite the growing emotion in her chest. "We're witnessing the heart of their civilization." The hologram's image shifted, and suddenly, the vast history of the alien species played out before their eyes. It showed the rise of their civilization, bright, hopeful, full of discovery and progress. But then the images turned darker, of wars fought, of worlds lost, of destruction. Yet even in the face of this, there was always hope, always the desire to rebuild, to restore what had been lost. The hologram showed them a world, a home, that was now no more, a planet that had been shattered, broken into pieces by an unseen force. It was the very same planet that had first appeared on their screens. But now, as the hologram continued, Mira saw something that made her heart skip a beat. The pieces of the planet began to float back together, drawn together by the energy of the structure. It was not a complete restoration, not yet, but it was the beginning of something new, a rebirth. "This is what they're trying to do," Kay said, his voice barely above a whisper. "They're trying to fix what was broken." Mira turned to face her crew, her heart swelling with understanding. "They're not just asking for help. They're showing us a way forward, a way to rebuild, to heal, to restore." The hum from the structure had softened, but it was still there, resonating through the ship like a heartbeat. The alien fleet, once broken and scattered, now seemed to stand together in unity, their ships glowing with new life, their purpose renewed. Mira stepped forward, her decision clear. She reached for the communication panel, her hand steady as she prepared to send a message to the alien fleet. "We will help," she said softly, but with unwavering resolve. "We will help you rebuild." The hum from the fleet intensified, filling the bridge with a sound that was both a song of gratitude and a promise for the future. The connection was made. The choice had been made. The fate of two civilizations, so different yet so alike, was now intertwined. Humanity had been given a chance to be part of something far greater than anything they could have imagined. They had been given a chance to restore what had been broken. And in that moment, Mira knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter, not just for humanity, but for the galaxy itself. The future was not set in stone. It was waiting, and it was theirs to shape.